G'day, everyone's video on Saturday, the 2nd of August 2025. Just gone 9:31 p.m. Chicago time. Do hope you are doing well. So it's the weekend, time for another weekend futures market recap. I'll go through 15 of the largest futures markets and I show you what I'm seeing on my charts. Well. Finally got that break Thursday into Friday on the E-mini. Question is, are we going to bounce or are we going to continue further down? We'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, to say apologies that there was no video last weekend. I'm just swamped, overwhelmed at the moment. I wonder if you are too. My inbox has never been so full. If you sent me a message over the last several days, apologies, I've not been able to respond to any of those. We're actually preparing to get on the road again next week. Next weekend, we're starting our travel back to Europe. This time in Australia has been great. I think we've spent almost 3.5 months here and it's been a really good trip. I've got to recommend Noosa. If anybody's traveling to Australia, come up and see this part of the country. It's absolutely beautiful. It's mid-Queensland, north of Brisbane. Swell waves this year not been that great. We've had two decent swells come through. A little bit disappointing, but we're staying that much further north of Byron Bay. Byron Bay is a real swell magnet. It's the most easterly point of the Australian continent, and so it gets all the swells coming from the south and the north. But it's just getting too expensive in Byron Bay, as is everywhere around the world. I think everybody's feeling a little bit of a cost of living pinch, and so we've spent more time up here in Noosa rather than Byron Bay. But anyway, enough of the personal stuff. Let's get to some charts. We're going to talk about the E-mini first, then I'm going to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to talk about the last 3-4 trades. One that's currently open, one was a loser and two were winners, and I go through the setups for those because I think that's important to understand how the indicators work, and then we'll talk about the other futures markets and see what's lining up for next week. But the E-mini, let us talk about that first. We finally got a break Thursday into Friday, all set off by the BLS numbers, which are the jobs numbers, and Trump ended up firing the, I think, is it the head of the BLS or the head of the statistics department of the BLS? It's a big deal. Just a little bit of inside baseball stuff with BLS numbers. The biggest component is an adjustment that the BLS makes called the births deaths adjustment, and that's the birth and death of small businesses. They estimate how many new businesses were birthed versus the number of small businesses that go out of business, and over the years it's become the largest component of the BLS numbers, and it's something that's totally estimated. They have no way of figuring it out because the other BLS numbers come from surveys that they put out with employers. And because they don't track the small businesses, they just make a guess. And sometimes the guesses can be wildly out, and sometimes they can be wildly manipulated, which turns out to be what was going on, particularly last year leading into the election. And so we ended up with massive revisions on the other side, and it turns out the US economy is not as strong employment-wise as we thought. The unemployment rate, interestingly, has not been ticking up, and that is because the participation rate is ticking down. And if you adjusted for the participation rate, which is the number of people that are looking for work or in work, if you adjusted for that, the unemployment rate would be about 1% higher than it is at the moment. So anyway, just some little inside baseball type stuff on BLS numbers. Not that we should care about that. I'm a totally technical trader. All of that information is basically baked into the numbers, so we shouldn't really care what the number is, but it does impact sentiment. And so do you feel that the sentiment has suddenly changed at the end of this week, where people are suddenly saying, I thought the economy was weak, and now all of a sudden the numbers are starting to be reflective of that? The stock market, I didn't like it. E-mini sold off. We're down about 200 points on the E-mini from the highs. So let's look at the daily chart first of all. And we've been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. These are all the RAMBO patterns into those highs. And this week's activity, we had, 4 in a row. RAMBO patterns showing up on the daily chart is a big deal. And that means that the new highs are being pushed higher by amateur activity. And RAMBO stands for a potential reversal of an amateur breakout. Now, I've said all along, we're in an uptrend. The background's in red on this chart. We're not in a downtrend until we see blue professional bars at the highs. Last time we saw blue professional bars, they were at the lows. Therefore, we're in an uptrend until we see these professionals taking profit on the highs. And what's happening here is the stock market's being driven higher by the amateur activity pushing new highs, and sometimes just run out of steam. We head down. You can see the momentum numbers have been looking weaker and weaker, and finally started to roll over there. In terms of cyclical patterns, there was nothing to stop us at that point on the daily chart. Yes, we had pushed up through resistance on the low and the intermediate time frame, but we've still got this energy, this cyclical energy, support to resistance to run up. So we're still going to go above this number. We're still going to go eventually above 6,600, but the question is, where the blue professional bars come in on the lower time frames to catch this move and push it back up. But in terms of cyclical patterns on the daily chart here, these two lines on the low and intermediate time frames, you see that they've gone parallel. They're not heading to a cross. We need those to head back down, cross, turn, and that's where the support on the daily chart is likely to come in, but we're not seeing that yet. So let's go down, 135-minute chart, and here you can see all the way up on this move. We've been driven by RAMBO patterns, a whole sequence of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that's seven, all the way up to those highs, and sometimes they lead to just a little bit of weakness here. No weakness there, a little bit of weakness there, this one here. Sometimes the bigger moves. I always say look for the low of the amateur sequence as to be key. This number down here, 63.66, was key number, and that's where I'm in short at 63.65. And then we had blue professional bar on the Thursday, came in, and then we sold it down with more blue professional bars on Friday's activity. When those blue professional bars are over, we will trail the stop up here on Better Pro-Am. So eventually that will happen when those come in, but let's see how big the activity is on Monday or Tuesday's trade. Possibly this could freak some people out with Friday's activity, because the amateurs get involved after the weekend where they look at their charts and see what's going on. Yep. Big things happen at triples, and we're waiting for some weakness after that, but the bars are still red on the 135-minute chart here, so we're still strong, and things are going parallel here. We've got to make a pullback to end of trend on the intermediate time frame, which the resistance is sitting here, so these things have got to come down to make that cross on the 135-minute chart. So we'll be looking for that 45-minute chart. Here we go. This is looking nicer in terms of topping out patterns. Those are the RAMBO patterns into those highs. Blue professional bars with a blue box. That's professional activity at the highs. And it's the end of the sequence that we had down here. The sell-off that we had that ended up with blue professional bars and exhaustion sell down here. They got in on that, pushed up to those highs, took profits up here. Didn't end up with an exhaustion buy pattern on the 45-minute chart, but we did on the lower time frames. So we'll look at that. And then now we've dropped down, and these are big pro bars coming in here. The background's in blue and the bars are blue. And at some point we'll crack through that support, trailing support there. But you'll see on the 45-minute chart here, there's that resistance on the highest time frame. This is such a strong pattern. We've still got to make a pullback to end of trend on that 45-minute chart. So at some point we'll catch these lines, thicker lines will come together, we'll push back up again. But the question is just how far down we're going to go before those things trigger. 15-minute chart, blue boxes at the highs after the RAMBO patterns. There's the blue professional bars, big pro bars on this time frame, pro box down here at those lows. That's where they bought the low, and that's where they got out up here, and we're back down to that level. So psychologically, that's actually an important level. But last time around, we had exhaustion sells. This time around, no, we just got a flush pattern. Still haven't put in those exhaustion patterns down there, so it's a little bit too early on the 15-minute chart there. And why has that not come back up? Sometimes I lose these little boxes on TradeStation for whatever reason. And in terms of cyclical patterns here, we've overshot resistance on the highest time frame, put in all these signs of weakness. There we've dropped off. We've got to go see probably a pullback to end of trend on the lowest time frame. So possibly we get a bounce on Monday, Tuesday, put in that resistance on the lowest time frame here, and then push back down for an end of trend pattern that'll sync up with cyclical support on the highest time frame. But let's wait and see. It's weak at the moment. The question is, we've still got to push back down and then come back up, or we'll keep on getting weaker and weaker. And here's the 13,500 tip-bar chart. Let's look at this one. So here we go. Signs of weakness at the end, cyclical resistance, and dropped into a downtrend. Big things happen at triples. Here we either have big bounces or big breaks. And we've got a big break. Markets in a downtrend. Bars are white. And on the 13,500, pull back to end of trend on the left shoulder, pull back to end of trend on the head of the move here on the intermediate time frame. So we could have a little bit of a bounce, because cyclically we've overdone it here. Have a little bit of a bounce, and then the resistance will come in on the 13,500, and then we'll push back down, pull back to end of trend on that highest time frame. It feels a bit weird, because on Friday it was such a big down day to actually be thinking that there's some reason for it to catch and have a move back up just seems a little bit odd, because for me it seems like the mood has totally shifted from Thursday into Friday into just more pessimism. Here on 13,500, this is the beginning of last week and the end of the week there. And here we go. The amateurs were leading the charge last time around, and RAMBO patterns with exhaustion sell is unstable. We rocketed back up, took them out with busting stops above the high with an exhaustion buy, bearish divergence, move into a downtrend. Didn't have a signal at this point here because we didn't actually have blue professional bars at the highs. This signal generated there, but because we didn't have more blue professional bars absolutely at the highs on 13,000, it didn't generate there. The next time frame down, 4,500 tip bar chart, did signal there, which was nice. Little amateur up bars there, weak buying, and then we just fall out of bed. Blue professional bars at the lows. No exhaustion sell down there. So we need to mirror these exhaustion patterns. They go from exhaustion sell to exhaustion and another exhaustion sell and another exhaustion sell to an exhaustion buy. This has got to have an exhaustion sell to stop this move. So we did not get that yet. So I'd be looking for that. Maybe we'll cause a little bit of panic selling on Monday and generate that pattern there. But just watch out. There might be another catch and move back up before coming back down again. So there we go. That's some thoughts on the E-mini charts. Hopefully that's useful to you. And let's go through some setups over the last couple of weeks. These are trades I took. So this is 2 weeks ago. Long Aussie based on this move here. Didn't come with big pro bars at the lows, but we had big pro bars here into the retrace. And then they came in. Down here. So I would have liked to have seen that pattern down there, but we had a whole bunch of forex markets go off at the same time. They all started to trigger because the US dollar was weak, and Aussie, Euro, Pound all started to strengthen. So I took the trade in the Aussie, and that was really nice. Didn't end up with exhaustion buy up here, or the blue big pro bars up here, but we ended up with pro bars selling this move down. This is actually the stronger move, but I wasn't short Aussie, I was short Euro on that trade here. And this where on Sunday night this rolled over here. We had the exhaustion buy, bearish divergence, flush patterns right at the highs, professional bars into those highs. Sometimes these moves take a few days to roll over, sometimes they're really quick. This took a few days to roll over, got short on this move here and the breakdown, and that was tariff news, or the trade agreement news out of Europe with Trump, and the euro just fell out of bed. I took profits too early. There was a lot more in it down here, and it's bounced off RAMBO patterns, exhaustion sell, lots of exhaustion sell, bullish divergence, and we're bouncing at the moment. But let's see where that goes on the euro. And then a losing trade, natural gas. So here I thought, oh, that's great. Out of my euro trade, I'll go long natural gas. We had big pro bars come in here at this point. We had a squeeze. We had blue professional bars seemingly take off here, a whole series of them, through the trailing stop, get this move going, and no, ended up with actually RAMBO patterns on the lower time frame there, and just couldn't get through and then crashed down. So it took me out on my stop down here, but more activity coming in at the lows. Didn't have, I suppose, exhaustion sell at that point. This exhaustion sell is almost getting the move going, but it's trying to hold down here at $3, psychologically important level. So let's see if natural gas gets above 315 this week in this area. It's actually held. So natural gas, and then of course short E-mini at the moment, holding that trade. And we'll see where that goes, but I'm willing to sit through a little bit of a bounce before that thing's all over on the downside. So there we go. Let's talk about what's setting up for maybe next week. British pound starting to have big professional bars come in here at the end of the week. So that's interesting for British pound. So that potentially could signal long if we get above 33.5. No absolute blue professional bars down here, exhaustion sell down here. They got in on the retrace. Let's wait and see. That's not great in terms of a pattern. Japanese yen, it's bouncing off a RAMBO pattern down here. Big pro bars happened earlier on in the move, getting above the sequence of big pro bars where they came in. Here and here. It's interesting. So at the moment, we're in an uptrend on Japanese yen, signaled there. 10 years, yep. Of course, with the news on Thursday, Friday, equities market sold off and we had big pro bars come in here. So we're in an uptrend on the 10 years, but it's run pretty hard there with Friday's trade. So no exhaustion sell. The exhaustion sells happened here. Big pro bars came in on that retrace there. We rocketed away on 10 years. Gold not looking good. The silver chart is looking better, but here we had market topping out. So we had professional boxes at the high up here, getting the move going, and then big pro bars setting in here. So it's a bit of a U-shape pattern here where they let the market trade down quite a bit further than they were interested in getting in. But then here they've seemingly grabbed this point and the market seems to be going up. So let's look for gold continuation of a rally there. This is a nice move in silver. So the last 2 weeks we had a nice signal up here, RAMBO patterns, then professionals, we sold off, and then into the lows, exhaustion sell, bullish divergence flush, professional boxes coming at the lows there, exhaustion buy, getting the move going here, and at 37 looks like we need to get through 37.5 to get confirmation that silver's on its way up. And then Bitcoin, so Bitcoin weakening at the moment. I thought 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, that this was really important. We hadn't had blue professional bars taking profits at the highs, and on that weakness we had big pro bars come in here, but it wasn't able to generate anything. And then when we lurched down through that low there, we had more professionals step in here, and again couldn't get the move going here. No continuation. We've fallen through it again, and now there's no blue professional bars in sight. So Bitcoin's weak. Ethereum topped out just under 4,000. We had a nice signal some weeks ago. There we go, right down here, 2,200. Super strong move for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, with background in red there on Ethereum. Just kept on going and going and going. And now we've topped out. It's big and junky. We had professionals taking profits on these highs, and then all of these squeezes came in. So there must have been a whole bunch cyclical signals come together up here, pullbacks to end of trends, blah blah blah, a whole bunch of them coming in together, squeezing there, and then finally exhaustion buy, bearish divergence, we dropped through and we're in a downtrend. No blue professional bars yet on Ethereum, so they're not interested quite yet. Now crude, talked about crude in the last video where I was saying watch out because this might be a little bit of a trap. Yep, we had a whole bunch of blue professional bars coming at the lows here at 64, but they also came in after exhaustion buy, and it weakened from there. We need to come back down, test into the lows down here at 65, blue professional bars step in there, professional boxes, bang, and we get going, we get our signal, we break out, and then it only goes to 70. Still a decent move, but we've got exhaustion buy, bearish divergence, big pro bars, a couple of the backgrounds in blue happening there, break into a downtrend, get a signal short, and so crude is weak at the moment. And then copper. Copper, again, said a few weeks ago, watch out for this because this was tariff related, and this drop off this last week was tariff related as well. When you have big moves like this with professionals at the highs and lows, the highs and the lows have to be tested. And we came back up, test into those highs, broke above there, busted out some people on stops. Blue professional bars at those highs, we got a signal short, and this is exhaustion sell getting the move going, and then we had more Trump tariff news on copper, and this thing just fell out of bed. Really not tradable because all just announcement related. And at the moment, we've had blue professional bars coming at the lows there, but who knows where this is going on copper. Corn, what are we doing at the moment on corn? It's weak, exhaustion buy, bearish divergence, blue professional bars at the highs, sold off. We're testing at the moment here, but no exhaustion sell. Soybeans, we have blue professional bars at the highs. We're in a downtrend right now. More blue professional bars coming in here, but that's on the retrace, no exhaustion sell. So still weak on soybeans. And wheat. So wheat, we topped out, exhaustion buys, signal short, and then exhaustion sells down here, but it's not caught yet, so we've not turned around on wheat. So there we go. I'm not sure how long this video is, probably pretty long, apologies for that. Shall attempt to do another video next weekend, but we are traveling on that weekend, so we'll see if that happens or not. Anyway, exciting times. Do hope your trading is going well. Looking forward to next week.